The cold breath from the crowd fogs up the giant display window. Children press their hands against the glass, leaving smudges as they lean closer. Inside the window, tiny mechanical elves bend over wooden workbenches, pretending to build toys. Small metal trains weave through snowy miniature villages, their headlights glowing as they pass through little tunnels dusted with fake frost. Mechanical reindeer lift their heads, blinking slowly as if preparing for their long Christmas Eve flight. Families stand shoulder to shoulder on the sidewalk, trying to soak in every detail before moving on. This is the famous holiday window display of Huston's, a tradition so special that some people drove hours just to see it. Behind the excited crowd, hundreds of families wait their turn. Parents hold their children's hands, and grandparents stand quietly with warm smiles. Everyone has come to witness the magic that Huston's created year after year. Inside the building, the scene is even more unbelievable. A gigantic Christmas tree, 9 stories tall, stands proudly in the middle of the grand atrium. Bright lights twinkle from every branch, reflecting off the brass railings and polished marble floors. The tree reaches so high that people on upper floors lean over balconies just to get a better view. During its brightest days, Huston's wasn't just a department store. It was a towering kingdom of shopping, celebration, and imagination. More than 12,000 employees worked inside this enormous structure. There were 200 different departments spread across 33 levels, including 5 basement floors, endless mezzanines, and countless long hallways. You could buy almost anything here: fancy clothing, fine jewelry, tools, toys, furniture, or even the newest fashion straight from Europe. Huston's wasn't just Detroit's greatest store. For a long time, it was one of the greatest department stores in all of America. But behind its warm holiday glow lies a story that is far more complicated. Huston's rise was spectacular, but its fall was just as dramatic. The city that once celebrated this store would later decide to destroy it. How does a place that meant so much become a building that a city chooses to tear down? What happened to turn Detroit's most beloved Christmas destination into a demolition site? The story begins in Detroit's Golden Age, a time when the city was exploding with life, money, and people. Factories roared day and night. The automobile industry was growing so fast that thousands of workers moved to the city every year. Huston sat right in the middle of this booming world, filling an entire city block. It stretched across 2.2 million square feet, making it one of the largest stores ever built. Inside, the building was alive with constant activity. Waves of customers filled the hallways. Elevators carried people to floors filled with perfumes, suits, books, gadgets, and fine china. The air carried a mix of scents: fresh popcorn from the snack counters, perfume from the cosmetic aisles, and the warm smell of roasted nuts sold in festive cones. During the holiday season, the number of visitors could reach hundreds of thousands. Yet Christmas was when Huston's truly became something magical. Every year, families from all across Michigan traveled to Detroit to walk along Woodward Avenue and stare into the holiday windows. These weren't simple displays. They were full animated scenes built with moving parts, glowing lights, and tiny details that brought the holidays to life. The windows became so popular that police officers had to control the crowds. People gathered so tightly that their breath covered the glass in fog. Children begged their parents to lift them up so they could see everything. Inside the grand atrium, the famous 9-story Christmas tree stood like a glowing tower. Workers spent days decorating it with thousands of sparkling lights, giant ornaments, and shimmering garlands. When the lights were finally turned on, huge crowds packed the building, cheering as the tree lit up the entire hall. For many Detroit families, this moment marked the official start of the holiday season. On the 12th floor, the store transformed into Santa Land and Toy Town. The smell of candy canes filled the air, and bright decorations hung from every corner. During peak Christmas weeks, almost 500,000 visitors came to this floor alone. Toy demonstrations, mechanical dolls, and model trains entertained children as they waited, sometimes for hours, to meet Santa. His little cottage sat in the corner, complete with a chimney, glowing lanterns, and soft music. Children came dressed in their best winter clothes, ready to sit on Santa's lap and share their Christmas wishes. Hudson's wasn't just a store. It helped shape Detroit's entire holiday culture. In 1924, the company played a major role in creating the Detroit Thanksgiving Day Parade, which eventually became one of the country's most famous parades. For many people, the parade signaled the beginning of the holiday season, and Hudson's was at the heart of it. But Hudson's wasn't only known for the holidays. Even during the warm summer months, the store remained a center of excitement. The building hosted fashion shows that rivaled Paris runways. Restaurants inside the store served thousands of meals each day. There were art exhibitions, displays of European treasures, and even showcases of the latest automobile designs from Detroit's booming car industry. From every angle, Hudson's represented Detroit's power and pride. It symbolized a city that was confident, wealthy, and filled with opportunity. Yet, forces were quietly building that would soon threaten everything Hudson stood for. By the early 1950s, America was changing. Families began moving from crowded cities to quiet suburbs. New shopping centers opened outside downtown areas. These shopping malls had modern designs, air conditioning, and huge free parking lots. People no longer needed to travel into the city to buy clothes or gifts. They could shop closer to home. Detroit was no exception. Suburban neighborhoods grew rapidly. More highways were built. Cars became the main form of travel. And with each passing year, downtown Detroit became a little less crowded. For Hudson's, the change was slow at first. The store had been so powerful for so long that it seemed unstoppable. But beneath the surface, trouble was forming. Trouble that would eventually lead to the end of Detroit's greatest store. The story of Hudson's cannot be understood without first understanding the man whose dream started it all. Long before the famous store rose above Woodward Avenue, a young boy named Joseph Lothian Hudson, known simply as J.L. Hudson, began a journey that would one day reshape Detroit's entire retail world. He was born in 1846 in Newcastle upon Tyne, England, a busy industrial town filled with noise, factory smoke, and the movement of workers heading to long shifts. When he was only 9 years old, his family decided to leave England behind and start a new life in North America. They traveled across the ocean, finally settling in Detroit in 1855. At that time, Detroit was not yet the car capital of the world. It was still a growing city, slowly turning from a small river town into a bustling industrial center. As JL grew up, he quickly learned the value of hard work. Detroit was expanding fast, and new stores, companies, and factories appeared every year. Young Hudson worked in different retail shops, learning how to treat customers, how to arrange products, and how to understand what people wanted. He wasn't born into wealth. He built everything through experience, skill, and an incredible ability to recognize opportunity. In 1881, at the age of 35, Hudson took a risk that would change his life forever. He opened his first store inside the Detroit Opera House building. It wasn't fancy or huge like the department store that would come later, but it was clean, organized, and welcoming. Hudson believed that customers deserved good quality at fair prices. He also believed in complete customer satisfaction. If someone bought something and wasn't happy, Hudson encouraged them to bring it back. These ideas might seem simple today, but at the time, they were bold. Detroit was changing quickly in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Factories grew taller, and new jobs attracted workers from across America and Europe. Streets filled with horses, wagons, and eventually automobiles as Detroit slowly became the center of the automotive industry. J.L. Hudson's store grew with the city. People trusted him. His business expanded so fast that by 1891 he had to relocate to a bigger building near Capitol Park. This growth set the stage for something even more ambitious, the beginning of a giant. By 1911, Hudson and his board made a decision that would alter the skyline of Detroit. They would build a massive flagship store on Woodward Avenue, one that would match the energy, ambition, and dreams of the booming city. Construction began shortly afterward. The building started as a single structure, but over the next decades it would grow again and again, transforming into a complex so large that it eventually became one of the biggest department stores in the entire world. Sadly, Hudson would not live to see the full realization of his dream. He passed away in July 1912, only a short time after construction began. but his vision remained alive in every brick, every beam, and every glowing display window. Between 1911 and 1946, Hudson's expanded in multiple phases. The original store kept growing upward and outward, like a living organism attaching new wings, new floors, and new departments. Architects and engineers blended different styles to keep the entire building flowing together. Early expansions were influenced by Chicago school architecture, a style known for strong, simple lines and wide windows. Later additions included Art Deco touches, giving the building sleek shapes, decorative metal elements, and geometric designs that matched the style of the 1920s and 1930s. Inside, the store operated like a well-run city. It had a complex network of elevators, so people didn't have to climb dozens of staircases. It had pneumatic tubes, long metal pipes that carried small capsules filled with receipts and messages to different departments at high speed. This kept the store operating smoothly, even when thousands of customers filled the building. There were advanced heating systems, cooling systems, and ventilation systems that were considered cutting edge at the time. By the end of World War I, Hudson's had achieved something no one expected. It became the largest department store in the world by total floor space, more than 2.2 million square feet, spread across 33 levels, including 5 basement floors, multiple mezzanines, dozens of retail floors, endless hallways, offices, storage rooms, and service areas. A stepped exterior design that rose like a mountain over downtown Detroit. To Detroiters, Hudson's wasn't just a building. It was a symbol, a sign that their city had arrived, that it was a major force in America, and that the future looked bright. But as the store continued to grow, something else had also begun to grow beneath the surface. A shift in American life was developing, slow, quiet, and unstoppable, and it would eventually challenge everything Hudson's represented. A nation changes. By the 1950s, the United States entered a new era. The end of World War II brought prosperity, and many families could afford more than ever before. With this new comfort came a new trend: suburban living. People dreamed of quiet neighborhoods with green lawns, 2-car garages, and wide streets. Highways connected these suburbs to cities, making travel easier. Detroit's population reached its highest point in 1950, around 185 million people. But immediately afterward, the number began to decline. Families moved to the suburbs, farmland became neighborhoods, shopping habits changed. People no longer wanted to drive downtown, find parking, and walk through a crowded city. They wanted convenience, they wanted speed, and retail companies responded. In 1954, Hudson's opened its first suburban branch at Northland Center in Southfield. When it opened, Northland was the largest shopping center in the United States. It didn't just offer shopping, it offered an entire lifestyle. Customers could drive right up to the entrance, park easily, and be inside within minutes. The air conditioning kept the building cool, the layout was simple and modern, everything felt new and streamlined. Northland's success was immediate and enormous. Soon Hudson's opened more suburban stores: Eastland 1957, Westland 1965, other locations across the metro area in the years that followed. But these new stores came with a price. Every customer who shopped in the suburbs was a customer who didn't come downtown. Foot traffic in the massive Woodward Avenue flagship began to decline, slowly at first, then more noticeably as years passed. Many people didn't realize it, but the downtown store had begun its long, painful slide. Detroit's wider struggles. Hudson's challenges weren't happening in isolation. Detroit itself was going through dramatic change. The 1967 civil unrest pushed even more families and businesses to leave the city. Entire neighborhoods emptied. The 1970s brought new shocks: oil shortages, competition from foreign car companies, and the weakening of the auto industry that had built Detroit's middle class. What had once been one of America's strongest cities was now fighting just to survive. As Detroit began struggling in the 1970s, Hudson's downtown flagship started to feel the pressure more than ever. What had once been a busy maze of shoppers, workers, and holiday celebrations slowly began to grow quieter. The same wide hallways that were once hard to walk through on weekends became strangely empty. Escalators that once carried streams of customers now hummed quietly with only a few riders. The store's massive size, once its proudest feature, became one of its biggest problems. Hudson's tried everything it could to keep people coming downtown. They renovated entire departments, hoping a newer look would bring excitement back. They adjusted prices and updated their merchandise to match changing trends. They ran big advertising campaigns to remind people that the downtown location was still open and still full of holiday magic. But no matter how hard the company tried, the results didn't match the store's former glory. Department by department, floor by floor, the building slowly began to shrink on the inside, not in size, but in activity. Stores inside the store closed. Areas that once buzzed with customers were roped off or turned dark to save money on lights and heating. Whole floors that once held beautiful clothing displays were reduced to a few racks or were left completely empty. The famous restaurants that once served thousands every day struggled as well. In the store's golden age, business people, workers, shoppers, and tourists all filled Hudson's dining areas during lunch hour. Now, with fewer workers downtown and fewer shoppers in the store, the sound of clinking dishes and busy chatter grew quieter. Even Hudson's most magical holiday traditions couldn't escape the decline. The Christmas windows still appeared every year, glowing with mechanical elves, winter villages, and dancing lights. But the crowds grew smaller. Parents who once drove hours just to stand on the sidewalk now stayed closer to home, choosing suburban malls decorated with modern lights, new attractions, and easier parking. Outside, downtown Detroit streets looked different too. Fewer people walked along Woodward Avenue. Fewer stores stayed open after dark. Buildings that were once filled with offices now carried "for lease" signs or sat quietly with empty windows. Inside Hudson's, the atmosphere was changing. Employees who had worked there for decades noticed the difference. The building felt too big for the number of people inside. What was once a lively, crowded center of retail now felt like a grand palace with too many empty rooms. By the early 1980s, the truth was impossible to ignore. The downtown Hudson store was no longer sustainable. It had simply become too large, too expensive to maintain, and too empty to survive. The closure that shocked the city. On January 17, 1983, Hudson's announced something few Detroiters ever believed they would hear. After decades of being the heart of downtown shopping, the store would close its doors. The news traveled through the city like lightning. People felt sadness, shock, and disbelief. Hudson's wasn't just a building. It was a part of their childhood, their memories, their holidays. For older Detroiters, Hudson's was the place where they bought school clothes, where they met friends, or where they rode the elevator up to Toy Town as children. For many families, a yearly visit to see Santa at Hudson's was a tradition stronger than any other. To lose the store felt like losing a piece of the city itself. When the doors finally closed, it marked more than the end of a business. It marked the end of an era. It symbolized the struggles American cities were facing, especially Detroit. Downtown department stores across the country were closing, but the fall of Hudson's felt especially painful because of how deeply it was woven into Detroit's identity. A giant without a purpose. Even after the store closed, the building didn't fall silent immediately. Around 100 employees from Hudson's corporate offices continued to work in the upper levels of the structure. They filled some of the office floors, using the building as headquarters while the company transitioned into something new. This continued for a little over a year, until May 1984, when Hudson's officially merged into the department store division of Dayton Hudson Corporation. After the merger, things changed quickly. By late 1986, all executive teams and buying staff moved to Minneapolis. With that, the enormous Hudson's building, once the busiest retail center in Detroit, became mostly empty. The structure, with its 33 levels and more than 2 million square feet of space, now sat like a silent giant on Woodward Avenue. And a giant with no purpose becomes a difficult problem. Dangerous size, difficult future. In December 1989, the building was sold to Southwestern Associates, a company from Windsor, Ontario. The sale officially ended Hudson's direct link to the building that had defined Detroit's shopping world for generations. The new owners faced a nearly impossible challenge. What do you do with a building this enormous? Repurposing Hudson's was harder than almost anyone expected. Developers suggested many ideas, turning it into a huge office center, dividing it into mixed-use floors, creating a marketplace with small shops, converting parts into apartments, renovating it into a hotel, transforming it into an entertainment complex. But none of the plans succeeded. The reasons were simple and heartbreaking. The building was far too big. The cost would be massive. Detroit's economy was still declining. Investors weren't willing to take the risk. As the early 1990s passed, the building started showing signs of age. Paint peeled, floors cracked, water damage spread. Graffiti appeared. The decline wasn't sudden or violent. It was slow, steady, and sad. The building was slowly losing its battle against time. City officials saw the danger clearly. A massive empty structure in the middle of downtown could not sit forever. Reports showed that repairing the building would be too expensive, and finding a use for it might take decades. Hudson's had once been a symbol of Detroit's power. Now, it was becoming a symbol of Detroit's struggle. The city makes a decision. In 1996, after years of debate and planning, the city of Detroit took control of the property through condemnation. Engineers studied the structure. Economists ran financial projections. Developers examined the potential. And after all the studies were complete, the conclusion was unavoidable. Hudson's had to be demolished. This decision wasn't made lightly. Many people were angry, others were heartbroken. To some, it felt like erasing history. But to the city, leaving the building standing with no purpose was even worse. Detroit needed space for new beginnings, new projects, and new hopes. Preparing for the end. The demolition of a building as enormous as Hudson's was not a simple task. It required months of preparation, careful engineering, and expert precision. Multiple companies were hired to handle the job. Walbridge Aldinger and Jenkins Construction managed the early stages, removing hazardous materials and preparing the structure for collapse. The final demolition would be handled by Controlled Demolition, Inc. They were known for bringing down some of the largest buildings in the world. But Hudson's presented a unique challenge. It was tightly surrounded by other buildings in downtown Detroit. One mistake could cause damage to neighboring structures. Everything had to be perfect. Workers drilled into walls. Explosives were placed carefully throughout the building. Each charge was tested and retested. Computer models predicted how the building would collapse. Engineers studied every detail. Hudson's had stood for nearly 90 years. Now, it would fall in seconds. By the autumn of 1998, everything was ready. After nearly a century of standing tall over Detroit, Hudson's was about to take its final bow. The preparation took months, with teams of experts carefully placing explosive charges throughout the structure. Every wire, every hole drilled into concrete, and every bag of explosives was part of a large and precise plan. This was not just any demolition. It was the biggest implosion of a building in downtown Detroit's history. A city gathers to watch an ending. On the chilly afternoon of October 24th, 1998, thousands of people gathered downtown. Some stood quietly with their hands in their pockets. Others talked softly with friends or family, remembering the days when Hudson's was filled with Christmas lights, music, and crowds. Parents held their children on their shoulders, wanting them to witness history, even if they would never fully understand what the building had once meant. Television news crews lined the streets. Reporters waited for the exact moment. Some older Detroiters wiped tears from their eyes. Many of them had childhood memories tied to Hudson's. Memories of seeing Santa, riding the escalators, or walking through the holiday windows. To them, this wasn't just a building coming down. It was like watching a part of their own past disappear. At 5:45 p.m., the countdown began. A voice crackled through speakers, steady and calm, even though the air felt electric with emotion. 10, 9, 8, people held their breath. 3, 2, 1, a thunder that echoed across the city. The first explosion sounded like a heavy thump, followed by another and another, each one echoing off nearby buildings. The ground trembled, windows rattled, a wave of sound rolled through the streets. The explosions were timed perfectly, traveling down through the building in a sequence that would make it collapse inward like a folding card. For a split second, Hudson seemed frozen, as if resisting the fall, and then, suddenly it gave way. The enormous structure crumbled toward the center, floors folding down onto one another. The collapse took only a few seconds, but to the thousands watching, it felt strangely slow, almost dreamlike. A huge cloud of dust exploded into the air, rising up like a storm and rolling through downtown streets. People covered their faces with scarves and sleeves, though many stood rooted in place, staring at the empty space where Hudson's had stood just moments before. When the dust finally began to settle, Detroit's skyline looked different. The building that had once towered over Woodward Avenue was gone. All that remained was a mountain of rubble and a hollow silence. The heart of downtown had lost one of its oldest, strongest symbols, an empty space filled with memories. After the implosion, workers spent weeks clearing the debris. Crushed bricks, twisted metal beams, broken glass, and shattered concrete were loaded into trucks and hauled away. The site that had once held one of the world's largest department stores was now just a flat, empty space. The lot measured 2.1 acres, but it felt much bigger. It was surrounded by busy streets and tall buildings, yet somehow looked lonely, a reminder of everything Detroit had lost over the years. For many residents, the empty space brought mixed emotions. Some felt heartbreak, remembering Hudson's as the place where they bought their first suit, had their first job, or saw their children smile in Santaland. Others felt a quiet sadness, knowing that their city had once been so powerful, with booming industries and shining stores, and now was facing the painful reality of decline. But there were also Detroiters who believed the demolition was necessary. They saw the empty lot not as a symbol of failure, but as a chance for something new, a chance to build something that could help downtown come back to life. The long wait for a new beginning. Even after the debris was cleared, the site remained undeveloped for many years. It became one of the most famous empty lots in the city. People passed by daily, imagining what could one day rise there. Developers pitched ideas, some talked about office towers, others imagined apartments, hotels, or cultural centers. But the economy struggled. Downtown Detroit needed investment, and large projects seemed too risky. Throughout the early 2000s, the Hudson's block stayed quiet. Grass sprouted here and there. A few events were held on the lot, but nothing lasting. It was strange to see such a large, empty space right in the middle of a major American city. It almost felt like a missing tooth in a smile, something clearly absent that had once defined the entire look. In many ways, the empty lot became a symbol of Detroit itself, full of history, full of potential, but waiting for new life. The fact that Hudson's had once been the largest department store in the world by floor space made the emptiness even more noticeable. People joked that you could land a helicopter in the space. Others said it felt like a ghost zone, a piece of land that still held memories even though nothing stood on it anymore. Why development was so difficult? Building on the Hudson site was far more complicated than people realized. The land was valuable, but it also came with challenges. Its enormous size meant any project had to be large and expensive. Developers needed strong financial backing. Detroit's economy was unpredictable. Investors were cautious. The city needed something impressive, not just a simple building. For nearly 20 years, proposals came and went. Some ideas were creative, some practical, and some unrealistic. But none came to life. The site simply waited. A new vision finally takes shape. After years of uncertainty, a plan finally began to emerge. A plan known as Hudson's Detroit. This new development aimed to build something that respected the past, while also pushing the city forward into the future. The project included modern architecture, new public spaces, and the hope of bringing people back to downtown. While the new project would look nothing like the original store, its name was a reminder of what once stood there. It acknowledged the history while offering a fresh start. For many Detroiters, the beginning of construction felt like a moment of healing. After decades of waiting, something new was finally rising, where the old Hudson's had once stood. It wouldn't replace the memories, but it would allow the land to have a future again, instead of remaining frozen in the past. A story, larger than a store. The story of Hudson's its rise, its golden age, its decline, and its final fall, mirrors the story of Detroit itself. Both began with ambition, grew into something extraordinary, and then struggled as times changed. Both experienced decline, abandonment, and broken dreams, and both eventually found the strength to rebuild. To this day, people still share their memories of Hudson's, the smell of roasted nuts and cones, the magical Christmas windows, the 9-story tree, Santa Land and Toy Town, the restaurants filled with chatter, the wide aisles buzzing with life, the feeling of being inside a palace of shopping and imagination. Hudson's may be gone, but its story continues to live in the hearts of those who experienced its magic. Even after the rubble was cleared and the dust faded, the memory of Hudson stayed alive in the hearts of people who had grown up in Detroit. For many, it wasn't just a department store or a place to buy things. It was a part of their childhood, a place where they shared moments with family, friends, and sometimes even strangers. When a building becomes woven into daily life for so many generations, its disappearance feels personal, almost like losing a relative. Even people who had moved away from Detroit found themselves thinking about the store again when they saw news of the demolition. Videos of the implosion spread across television and newspapers. Former residents called each other, saying things like, "Do you remember the Christmas windows?" Or, "I can still picture that huge tree in the atrium." Entire families sat around kitchen tables, reminiscing about the days when the store was busy and alive. Memories that never fade. Some adults remembered standing in long lines to see Santa, clutching their parents' coats and shivering with excitement. Others remembered working in the store, stocking shelves, fitting shoes, running the cash registers, or carrying packages for customers. For many Detroiters, Hudson's was their first job, their first paycheck, or the place where they learned responsibility, teamwork, and customer service. There were people who got engaged inside the store's famous restaurant. Others remembered the smell of perfume drifting from the cosmetic counters, or the sound of the announcement speakers calling out department numbers. It wasn't just a store. It was a world inside a building, a universe of memories that had shaped lives. During the holidays, families often made a whole day out of visiting Hudson's. They rode the old streetcars or buses downtown, stopped at a diner afterward, or went to see a movie. The entire adventure was part of the holiday season. Even when people grew older and had children of their own, they brought their kids to Hudson's, wanting them to feel the same wonder they had felt decades earlier. For many Detroiters, the moment the store collapsed was the moment a chapter of their lives closed forever. The store that taught a city how to dream. Hudson's influence stretched far beyond holiday displays. The store helped shape Detroit's identity at a time when the city was growing faster than almost any other place in America. It represented confidence, innovation, and a sense of pride. When Detroit's auto industry soared, Hudson's soared with it. When Detroit's factories roared day and night, Hudson's welcomed their workers, their families, and their excitement. The store showed the world what American retail could be. At its peak, Hudson's was a shining example of what a department store could achieve. Endless variety, luxury at every corner, and creative displays that brought imagination to life. In many ways, Hudson's helped set the standard for department stores across the nation. Other cities built their own grand stores, inspired by what Detroit had created. Holiday displays became a tradition across America, partly because Hudson's popularized the idea. Large atrium Christmas trees, Santa's workshops, toy demonstrations, and downtown parades during November and December. All of these became common because Hudson showed how powerful these experiences could be. Even suburban malls learned from Hudson's strategies. They copied the idea of having multiple departments, anchor stores, convenient layouts, and seasonal displays. But no matter how many malls opened, nothing could fully capture the feeling of walking through the original Hudson's downtown store. Why Hudson's couldn't be saved. When people ask why such an iconic place had to be destroyed, the reasons are both emotional and practical. The emotional reason is simple. Detroiters loved the store and hated losing it. The practical reason is far more complicated. Hudson's was an enormous building, too big for modern use. It had 33 levels, basement floors, parking challenges, and endless maintenance needs. Downtown traffic had decreased, Businesses had left the city center, and the auto industry, once the mighty engine of Detroit, had weakened. Even if someone had tried to turn Hudson's into apartments, offices, or a hotel, the cost would have been enormous. The building needed major repairs, and the economy simply wasn't stable enough. Developers looked at the numbers again and again, but the math never worked. The property became a financial burden that no investor could take on without huge risk. For these reasons, the city made the difficult choice: demolition. To many, it felt like the end of an era, and it was. But the decision also opened a new possibility for Detroit's future, a symbol of loss and a symbol of hope. After the implosion, the empty Hudson's block became a quiet reminder of everything the city had gone through. It showed how quickly fortunes can change. In just a few decades, Detroit went from booming growth to painful decline. Factories closed, jobs disappeared, families moved away, abandoned buildings filled the skyline. The Hudson's lot, sitting in the center of downtown, represented these changes clearly and painfully. But the empty space also symbolized potential. It was a blank canvas waiting for new life. The city began to dream again, slowly at first, then with more confidence. Developers talked about creating something that could honor the past while pointing toward the future. When plans for Hudson's Detroit were announced, it felt like a turning point. The new project promised modern architecture, new public spaces, and fresh energy for downtown. It wouldn't be the same as the original store, but it didn't need to be. It simply needed to bring new purpose to a site that had been silent for too long. The new development carried a name that would remind future generations of what once stood there. In many ways, the name Hudson's became a bridge, connecting Detroit's proud history with its hopes for revival. Lessons from a lost landmark. The rise and fall of Hudson's teaches us many lessons about cities, people, and the passage of time. First, it shows how powerful dreams can be. One boy from England built a small business that grew into one of America's greatest stores. Vision, hard work, and determination transformed a simple idea into a massive landmark. Second, Hudson shows how fragile success can be. Even great buildings, great companies, and great cities must adapt. When times change, standing still becomes dangerous. Third, the story reminds us that memories do not depend on buildings. The walls may fall, but the emotions, traditions, and experiences stay alive. Fourth, Hudson shows how deeply a place can shape a community. A store isn't just a place to spend money. It can be a place where families gather, traditions form, and dreams take shape. A final walk through the past. If someone today were to stand on the Hudson site and close their eyes, they could almost imagine the building still standing. They might picture the glowing holiday windows drawing crowds on a snowy evening. They might imagine the escalators humming, the smell of popcorn in the air, and the sound of joyful children waiting to meet Santa. They might think about the employees who spent their lives helping customers, or the families who made Hudson's part of their yearly traditions. Even though the building is gone, the legacy remains. Hudson's continues to live in stories, photographs, memories, and family traditions passed down through generations. A story that belongs to everyone. Hudson's is not just the story of a department store. It is the story of a city, a community, and a changing America. It represents ambition, hard work, joy, and deep sadness. It shows how buildings can rise like giants and fall like forgotten monuments. But it also shows how the human spirit continues, even when physical structures disappear. Detroit still remembers Hudson's, and as long as people share their experiences, the holiday magic, the department floors, the toy displays, the parades, and the memories, Hudson's will never truly be gone. Imagine today's billionaires showing off their huge mansions, private islands, and luxury compounds. Some of those homes look massive, but even the wildest modern estates cannot compete with one king's unbelievable dream from the 1700s. In the middle of southern Italy, an 18th century monarch decided he wanted something bigger, richer, and more powerful than anything anyone had ever built before. That king was King Charles III of Naples, and the palace he imagined would defy all expectations of size, beauty, and wealth. He wanted a building with more than 1,000 rooms, each decorated with art so detailed and breathtaking that it would drain the talents of Europe's most gifted painters, sculptors, and craftsmen. He wanted gardens so large they felt like whole worlds of their own, stretching into the distance with different landscapes, fountains, and water features. Some areas were so big they seemed to have their own climates. He even wanted a throne room so impressive that one glance at it would remind visitors of his absolute power. To achieve this dream, King Charles III hired the famous architect Luigi Vanvitelli, a master who had already worked on one of the most important churches on earth, St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. If there was any architect who could create something truly extraordinary, it was Vanvitelli. And so, Europe's largest royal palace, the Palace of Caserta, was born. But even though the palace opened with glory, power, and unimaginable beauty, its story would take a turn that no one expected. For decades, it sat forgotten and crumbling, nearly destroyed by time, weather, and war. Its fountains dried up, its walls cracked, and entire wings were sealed off like abandoned caves. What was once a symbol of royal greatness almost became a ruined ghost. Then, centuries later, the palace rose again, restored, revived, and welcomed back into the world as one of Italy's greatest treasures. This is the full story of how Europe's grandest palace went from magnificent to abandoned, and finally, to reborn. The King with a Giant Dream. In 1751, the rolling hills of southern Italy buzzed with plans that were bigger than life. King Charles III, ruler of Naples, wanted to prove that his kingdom was powerful enough to compete with the greatest cities of Europe. At the time, Rome and its papal palace were seen as symbols of authority and splendor. To outshine them, Charles didn't just want a palace. He wanted the grandest palace the continent had ever seen. So the king called upon Luigi Vanvitelli, a genius architect who understood how to mix art, engineering, and imagination. Vanvitelli didn't merely design a building, he designed a world, a place that combined power, beauty, government, and nature in one enormous complex. How big was the palace? The numbers almost sound made up. 47,000 square meters of floor space, 1,200 rooms, 1,742 windows, 34 enormous staircases. Even the palace's front facade seemed almost impossible. A long, straight stretch of architecture measuring 247 meters across. It was like a wall of royal authority rising from the earth. Once construction began in 1752, thousands of workers labored day and night for years. Sculptors shaped marble, painters climbed scaffolding to create huge ceiling frescoes. Stonecutters built walls and staircases that had to look perfect from every angle. The palace's interiors were meant to make visitors gasp, and that is exactly what they did. Massive frescoes covered ceilings with scenes of glory and history, columns carved from rare stone-lined hallways. And the throne room, the heart of royal ceremonies, gleamed with marble and gold, a space built to make guests feel the king's authority the moment they stepped inside. A palace beyond architecture, but Vanvitelli didn't stop with the buildings. He imagined a vast landscape that would be just as impressive. Behind the palace stretched enormous gardens filled with fountains, statues, forests, and wide lawns. The centerpiece was the massive water system, a series of cascades and fountains fed by the Carolino Aqueduct, an engineering marvel that carried water from over 40 kilometers away. Every detail, from the angle of the hills to the flow of water, was planned to create harmony between nature and architecture. The gardens were more than decoration. They were symbols of control and beauty, showing that the king commanded both land and water with grace and power. But King Charles III also wanted the palace to serve a practical purpose. He included plans for a silk factory right on the palace grounds. This wasn't a hobby or a decoration. It was a strategic decision meant to boost the local economy. By producing fine textiles, the palace would help make the region wealthier and more respected. In this way, the Palace of Caserta was not just a royal home. It was a political tool, an economic machine, and a cultural masterpiece all at once. The death of the architect and a son's promise. Sadly, Luigi Vanvitelli did not live to see the palace finished. He died in 1773, leaving behind a vision only partly completed. But his son, Carlo Vanvitelli, stepped in to continue the work. Carlo respected his father's ideas, following the original plans closely, while guiding the project to the next stage. By the late 1770s, even though the palace was not fully complete, it had already become a symbol of human creativity and ambition. People who visited felt overwhelmed by its scale and beauty. It stood as a reminder of what people can build when they have enough vision, money, and determination. But history was about to change dramatically. As Europe moved into the 19th century, wars, political shifts, and new rulers reshaped the continent. And with those changes, the palace began a long journey through reinvention, decline, destruction, and eventually, a stunning rebirth. As the 1800s approached, the Palace of Caserta stood like a sleeping giant. It had been built to show royal power, but Europe was entering a new and uncertain age. Wars, revolutions, and new rulers were about to shake the continent, and the palace would not escape these changes. What once symbolized strength and unity would soon become a mirror for shifting political tides. During this time, Naples came under the influence of the Murat family, connected to Napoleon Bonaparte. When the French took control, everything changed, including the palace's design, decorations, and purpose. The new rulers wanted the palace to reflect their power instead of the old Bourbon dynasty. This meant many rooms were redesigned, repainted, or completely reimagined. One of the most important transformations took place in the Grand Alexander Room, originally meant to serve as an impressive reception hall. Under French rule, this enormous space was turned into a temporary throne room, meant to show off the authority of the new regime. The room was filled with symbols of pride and military success, sending a clear visual message. A new power now ruled Naples. To decorate the walls, two skilled painters, Heinrich Schmidt and Rudolf Surlant, created huge frescoes showing important battles during the Napoleonic era. These paintings showed scenes like the capture of Capri and the Battle of Mileto. Visitors entering the room would immediately see these victories displayed on the walls, reminding them of the strength and reach of the new government. But the painters weren't the only artists involved. Sculptors such as Domenico Masucci, Claudio Monti, and the French artist Bertrand Dufour designed detailed stucco designs called bas-reliefs. These artworks showed stories from the life of Joachim Murat, Napoleon's brother-in-law, who became King of Naples. By covering the walls with stories of Murat's success, the palace became more than a home. It became a political advertisement. Two new masterpieces, the halls of Astria and Mars. While the French controlled Naples, two of the palace's greatest rooms were completed, the Hall of Astria and the Hall of Mars. These rooms blended two major artistic styles, neoclassical and empire, creating a look that combined old-world beauty with modern royal power. The architect behind this part of the project was Antonio de Simone, who followed the evolving tastes of Europe. The neoclassical style drew inspiration from ancient Rome and Greece, columns, balanced proportions, and clean lines. The empire style, inspired by Napoleon, added symbols of victory, eagles, stars, and military motifs. Together, these choices created rooms that felt both timeless and bold, a perfect reflection of a palace meant to impress kings, generals, diplomats, and rulers from across the world. The throne room, a space built to take your breath away. In 1845, decades after the palace's early construction, Caserta finally gained what many consider its most magnificent room, the new throne room. This hall stretched an incredible 40 meters long, with walls lined by 28 tall Corinthian columns made from shining stone. These columns created a rhythm across the room, guiding your eye toward the place where the throne once stood. The room's greatest decorative masterpiece came a year earlier, in 1844, when artist Gennaro Maldarelli painted an enormous ceiling fresco. This painting showed the moment when the first stone of the palace was laid, a powerful image connecting the room back to the beginning of King Charles III's dream. Anyone standing under that giant fresco would feel part of a story much bigger than themselves. The throne room quickly became one of the most important spaces in the building, used for ceremonies, meetings, and royal events. It was the heart of the palace's political and artistic identity. The English Garden, a natural wonderland. While the palace's interior showed the power of architecture and art, the gardens outside demonstrated the beauty of nature shaped by human creativity. One of the most beautiful additions came from Queen Maria Carolina, who wanted a modern-style outdoor space, similar to the fashionable English gardens of the time. She hired John Andrew Grafer, a skilled English gardener, and worked with Carlo Van Vitelli, Luigi's son, to design a 24-hectare landscape that resembled a natural paradise. It included rolling hills, meadows filled with exotic plants, flowing streams and hidden ponds, winding paths, small bridges, a network of canals, quiet spaces for reflection. To make the garden even more impressive, rare plants from all over the world were brought to Caserta. Orangeries and greenhouses allowed delicate species to grow, even those from warm tropical climates. Over time, the English garden became known as one of the finest botanical displays in Italy. Unification of Italy. A palace. Without a purpose, in 1861, everything changed again. Italy officially unified into one nation, with its new capital set in Rome. This meant the royal families who once lived in Caserta no longer used the palace as their main residence. Without the constant activity of a royal court, the buildings and gardens began to fall into decline. Gardens that once needed dozens of gardeners to maintain now grew wild. Exotic flowers and plants began dying. The once powerful aqueduct that fed the fountains slowly fell into disrepair. Water stopped flowing through the miles of cascades, leaving the fountains quiet and still. Inside, the situation was just as sad. Rooms that once glowed with color and light now sat empty and dusty. Yes, frescoes began to fade. Stucco decorations cracked. Marble floors dulled with age. Without royal funds or attention, even a palace this large could not take care of itself. Bit by bit, the Palace of Caserta, once an unstoppable symbol of power, started slipping into silence. World War II. A palace at the center of conflict. The darkest moment in the palace's history came during World War II. Between 1943 and 1945, the palace was taken over by the Allied forces and used as headquarters for their Mediterranean operations. Overnight, this royal home became a center of military decisions. Elegant rooms turned into offices filled with maps, radios, and military papers. Boots echoed on floors once stepped on by kings and queens. The palace became a place where strategy, not ceremony, ruled. The most historic moment came on April 29, 1945, when German forces in Italy signed their unconditional surrender within the palace walls. This marked the beginning of the end of the war in Italy, but the palace paid a huge price. Bombs damaged its structure. Looters stole furniture, art, and decorations. Sculptures and carved fixtures disappeared. Paintings, yet were ruined. Entire areas became unsafe. After the war, Italy struggled to rebuild its cities, homes, and infrastructure. A massive royal palace, especially one no longer used by royalty, was not a priority. So, wings were abandoned, doors boarded shut, and rooms left to rot. For a while, it seemed like the Palace of Caserta might never come back. The years after World War II were some of the hardest the Palace of Caserta had ever faced. Italy was left devastated by conflict. Cities needed to be rebuilt, roads repaired, families rehoused, and industries restarted. In a country struggling to survive, caring for a massive royal palace seemed impossible. For decades, the enormous structure stood in a strange state of half-life, not fully destroyed, but far from alive. Many of its rooms remained shut for years, sealed in darkness to protect what little remained inside. The once bright frescoes grew pale under layers of dust. Decorative stucco cracked away from walls. Wooden doors warped from moisture, and entire corridors felt frozen in time. The palace's gardens suffered even more. Without the teams of gardeners who once cared for every tree and flower bed, nature quickly reclaimed the land. Grass grew high across the pathways. Vines crawled over stone walls. Carefully designed views disappeared behind dense vegetation. Water that once flowed freely through fountains and cascades dried up, leaving basins cracked and silent. The Grand Carolino Aqueduct, which had once been an engineering marvel, fell into neglect. Without maintenance, it could no longer supply water to the palace's fountains. The entire water system, once one of the palace's most stunning features, slipped into ruin. As the decades passed, the palace became a place people whispered about, a sleeping giant that had lost its purpose. Locals knew it was important, but repairs were too expensive, and the building was simply too large to maintain without enormous funding. Many of its treasures remained locked away in dark rooms, protected from sunlight, but also forgotten. Visitors could only see a small part of the complex, and even those areas showed the heavy signs of time and weather. The palace felt like a memory of something great, slowly fading away. But then, at the end of the 20th century, everything changed. A turning point, global recognition, and hope. In 1997, the world finally took notice again. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, better known as UNESCO, officially named the Palace of Caserta a World Heritage Site. This was more than a title. It was a declaration that the palace was not just an Italian treasure, but a masterpiece belonging to all of humanity. With this recognition came attention, funding, and a new sense of responsibility. People began to understand that losing Caserta would mean losing a piece of global history. The UNESCO designation created momentum. Historians, architects, conservationists, and government officials started working together to develop a long-term plan to save the palace. They wanted to preserve everything: the architecture, the gardens, the paintings, the fountains, and even the stories carried inside its walls. But the challenge ahead was enormous. The palace covered tens of thousands of square meters. Restoring it would require patience, money, and precision. The real breakthrough came in the early 2000s. In 2001, a large-scale restoration project officially began, targeting the palace from top to bottom. Experts inspected every part of the structure. They evaluated the condition of frescoes, marble columns, wooden staircases, and carved ceilings. Engineers studied the aqueduct system. Gardeners analyzed the soil and surviving plant species. Nothing was overlooked. Every detail, no matter how small, mattered. Restoring Caserta was like bringing a giant back to life one limb at a time. The restoration begins. A giant that needed everything. One of the first major tasks was addressing the palace's massive exterior. The structure contained more than 74,000 square meters of facade, much of which had been damaged by weather, pollution, and wartime explosions. Cleaning and repairing these walls took patience. Workers used delicate tools to protect the original materials. They removed dirt and soot, filled in cracks, and repaired areas where pieces of stone had broken away. Little by little, the palace's exterior began to regain its original pale glow. Inside, the work was even more delicate. The palace's three most celebrated rooms, the Hall of Mars, the Hall of Astria, and the throne room, all required detailed restoration. Conservators gently cleaned frescoes that had turned dull over time. Colors that once seemed lost slowly returned. Gold details, which had faded into brown shadows, were carefully re-gilded to shine again. Sculptures damaged by war were reconstructed. Crumbling stucco work was rebuilt by hand by craftsmen trained in traditional methods. The grand staircase, one of the palace's most iconic features, was restored with special attention. The stone steps were polished. Decorative elements were repaired. Light once again streamed down the stairwell, illuminating the long, sweeping curve of the staircase as it had in the 1700s. Visitors who entered the palace after this renovation felt the same awe people felt centuries earlier. Breathing life back into the gardens. The gardens, which had turned into something resembling a forest, required massive effort. Teams of horticultural experts studied old maps, drawings, and notes written by the palace's original designers. They wanted to restore the gardens to their historical appearance while protecting the plants that had survived. Dead trees were removed and replaced. Flower beds were replanted with species that once grew there centuries earlier. The wide lawns were restored, Pathways were cleared and rebuilt. Garden ponds were dredged and cleaned. And most importantly, a long-term plan was created to restore the palace's original water system. This meant repairing sections of the historic Carolino Aqueduct, a structure so large and complex that restoring it would take many years. But the vision was clear. One day, the fountains and cascades of Caserta would once again flow with water, just as they had in the 18th century. A new kind of palace, culture, art, and global attention. As the restoration continued, the palace slowly transformed into a living cultural center. Instead of being only a monument of the past, it became a place where modern and historical art could exist side by side. Exhibitions were organized inside the restored royal apartments, where ancient frescoes looked down on contemporary works. Visitors who came to see the palace's traditional architecture were often surprised to find new artistic voices filling the spaces with color, sound, and ideas. The palace grounds also hosted musical festivals and performances. During the summer, the courtyards filled with the sound of operas, orchestras, and world-famous performers. Concerts by artists like Roberto Bolle, Zubin Mehta, and Placido Domingo brought new life into the vast spaces that had once felt forgotten. The palace became a symbol of revival, proof that even a building nearly lost to time could find new purpose. In recent years, visitor numbers have grown rapidly. In 1 month of 2021 alone, nearly 80,000 people entered the palace, walking through its grand halls and exploring its enormous gardens. The Palace of Caserta also earned a prestigious 3rd star in the Michelin Green Guide to southern Italy, placing it among the top cultural destinations in the region alongside ancient sites like Pompeii. Thanks to decades of restoration, effort, and passion, the palace is no longer a forgotten relic. It is once again a beacon of beauty, culture, and history. By the time the 21st century arrived, the Palace of Caserta had already survived the rise and fall of kingdoms, foreign invasions, natural decay, and a world war. But now, with the help of modern restoration teams, historians, engineers, and cultural leaders, it was beginning to shine again. Yet the palace's revival wasn't only due to restoration work. Something unexpected started to happen. Something that would introduce the palace to millions of people who had never even heard its name before. Hollywood discovered Caserta. For filmmakers, the palace was a dream come true. It was enormous, elegant, and full of dramatic spaces, with long corridors, marble staircases, and royal rooms that looked too perfect to be real. Directors and production studios began scouting the palace as a filming location. Soon, they realized that Caserta wasn't just beautiful, it could also act as other places. One of the earliest and most famous uses of the palace came from the Star Wars franchise. When Star Wars Episode Splendor, The Phantom Menace, and Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, were filmed, the Palace of Caserta became the Royal Naboo Palace, home of Queen Amidala, and one of the most elegant locations in the entire series. Movie crews transformed the palace's grand staircases and shining hallways into futuristic chambers, creating scenes that millions of fans around the world would remember. When people watched those movies, they saw long halls filled with bright light, polished marble floors reflecting golden patterns, and soaring ceilings decorated with classical designs. They didn't realize that these were not digital sets or fantasy creations. They were real places, filmed inside an actual European palace that had been built in the 1700s. Hollywood's interest didn't stop with Star Wars. Other major films soon followed. Mission Impossible 3 used parts of the palace to create dramatic action scenes and luxurious backdrops. Angels and Demons, based on the popular novel by Dan Brown, also filmed inside the palace, using its monumental architecture to represent the wealth and power of European institutions. Every time a new movie used the palace as a filming location, more people around the world discovered its beauty. Some viewers were shocked to learn that the palace wasn't a set. It was a real place they could actually visit. This new wave of global attention helped bring even more visitors to Caserta, and with them came support, publicity, and a deeper appreciation for the palace's history. But film crews weren't the only ones filling the palace halls. As restoration continued, Caserta became a vibrant cultural center. Concerts filled its open courtyards. Art exhibits filled its restored apartments. Scholars visited to study its architecture and history, and tourists from around the world wandered through its endless rooms and gardens, sharing photos and stories on social media, helping the palace reach even more people. Still, behind all the excitement, a quiet and steady effort continued, fully restoring the enormous palace to its original glory. The restoration teams faced one of their biggest challenges when they began working on the historic Carolina Aqueduct. This aqueduct had once fed the palace's magnificent fountains and waterfalls, creating a dramatic visual effect that stretched for kilometers. Over the centuries, lack of maintenance had left the aqueduct cracked, blocked, and unable to function. Restoring it required a mix of old techniques and modern engineering. Workers had to clear ancient channels, stabilize weakened stone, rebuild damaged sections, and ensure that water could once again flow smoothly through the long system. As the repairs moved forward, hopes grew that one day the fountains and cascades would return to their original strength. For visitors, the idea of water rushing through the long garden axis, from the palace all the way to the distant waterfall, became a symbol of Caserta's rebirth. While this work was happening outdoors, more projects continued inside the palace. Rooms that had been sealed for decades were slowly opened, cleaned, and restored. Some spaces still held original furniture that had been covered and protected long ago. Others contained fragments of destroyed decorations that needed careful rebuilding. Climatologists worked to create stable temperatures so that paintings and fabrics would not deteriorate again. Electricians rewired entire sections to make the palace safe for modern use without disturbing the historical interiors. All of this took time, years and years of patient, methodical work. But every improvement made a difference. Every cleaned hallway, every polished marble surface, every restored painting. Each one added to the sense that Caserta was awakening again after more than a century of silence. Visitors arriving in the 2020s could hardly believe that the palace had once been nearly abandoned. Grand rooms glowed with color again. The massive staircase sparkled under natural light. Gardens stretched wide and green, shaped by human hands but enriched by centuries of nature. And throughout the palace, exhibitions, performances, and guided tours allowed people to experience its history in new ways. The palace had regained not only its physical beauty, but also its purpose. It now served as a bridge between centuries, connecting the enormous ambitions of the 18th century with the creativity and curiosity of the modern world. People who walked its halls felt connected to kings, queens, soldiers, gardeners, architects, artists, filmmakers, and thousands of workers who had shaped the palace's story over hundreds of years. By restoring the Palace of Caserta, Italy had done something extraordinary. It had given new life to a monument that once seemed lost. A place that had nearly crumbled into ruins was now alive with music, art, study, tourism, and celebration. And its story was not finished yet, because restoration work continued every year, bringing the palace closer and closer to the brilliance it once held. Displayed when King Charles III first dared to imagine it. As the Palace of Caserta entered the modern age, something remarkable became clear. The building was no longer just a silent witness to history. It had become a living classroom, a cultural powerhouse, and a place where the past and present met face to face. Visitors walking through its marble halls no longer felt like they were simply touring an old royal residence. Instead, they felt like they were stepping into a story that was still unfolding. The palace's revival brought with it a powerful reminder that preserving history is not only about saving stones, paintings, or old furniture. It is about saving knowledge, identity, and human achievement. The Palace of Caserta became a symbol of what can happen when a society chooses to protect its heritage rather than allow it to crumble into silence. One of the most important effects of Caserta's rebirth was the way it promoted education. Schools from across Italy began organizing trips to the palace. Students walked through the grand staircase, gazed up at the towering frescoes, and explored rooms once used by kings and queens. Teachers explained how the palace showed the ambitions of the 18th century, how architecture could express power, and how art could communicate identity. Many students said they had never imagined such a place existed. Some even said the palace inspired them to study architecture, history, or art. Universities also began conducting research at Caserta. Scholars studied the building's construction methods, tracing how Luigi Vanvitelli solved engineering challenges that were incredibly complex for the 1700s. Others studied the palace's paintings, examining pigments, brushstrokes, and symbolism. Music historians explored the palace's theater, imagining how operas once echoed through the royal auditorium. Every part of the palace had something to teach, from the carved marble fireplaces to the centuries-old garden pathways. But learning didn't stop with students and scholars. Visitors from all over the world began attending guided tours, where experts explained the palace's design, its political meaning, and its past struggles. These tours helped people understand that the palace was not simply a place of beauty. It was a fortress of ideas about power, art, nature, and the role of kings in shaping society. As visitors traveled down the long central garden axis, following the straight line of fountains toward the distant waterfall, they felt the same awe that people felt in the 1700s. The symmetry, the scale, and the harmony all worked together to create a feeling of wonder that words could barely describe. The palace also became a center for cultural events. Seasonal festivals drew thousands of people, the courtyards filled with orchestras, dance companies, and opera singers. On some evenings, warm golden lights illuminated the palace walls, making the enormous facade glow like a piece of living art. Music drifted through the air, combining with the smell of summer flowers and the soft sound of footsteps on stone. These events brought together locals and tourists in a shared celebration of culture, turning Caserta into a gathering place filled with joy and creativity. Meanwhile, restoration teams continued pushing forward. Their goal was not simply to patch up damaged areas, but to fully honor the palace's original character. In rooms where frescoes had faded, conservators used careful methods to bring back lost colors. In areas where wooden floors had warped, they replaced boards using the same type of wood that the original builders used. In the gardens, new trees were planted to match the species from old botanical records. Every improvement demanded patience, because the team wanted to ensure that the work remained faithful to history. The Carolino Aqueduct remained one of the most challenging projects, but also one of the most meaningful. Restoring it required a massive commitment, since the aqueduct stretched for kilometers across the countryside. Engineers inspected each section, fixing cracks and strengthening weakened areas. The dream was to once again see water flowing down the long garden cascade, sparkling under the sunlight, just as it had when King Charles III first walked the grounds. For many people, the return of this water would symbolize the palace's complete rebirth, a moment when past glory and modern restoration finally came together. While restoration moved forward, new technology helped protect the palace. Climate control systems were installed to keep humidity levels stable. This was important because moisture could destroy paintings, fabrics, and wooden furniture. Security systems were updated to protect against theft or vandalism. Digital mapping tools allowed experts to track which areas needed the most attention. And high-resolution photography helped record the palace's condition, creating a visual archive owing for future generations. As these improvements continued, Caserta's reputation grew. It was no longer just a beautiful palace. It was one of the most significant cultural landmarks in Europe. Guidebooks praised its architecture, gardens, and restoration work. Travel magazines featured the palace in lists of must-see European destinations. Cultural organizations awarded it recognition for heritage preservation. The palace began attracting people from countries far beyond Europe, including travelers from Asia, America, and the Middle East. Many visitors said they first learned about the palace because of movies filmed there. Others discovered it through social media, where photos of its marble halls and grand staircases went viral. Every visitor added something to the palace's new story. Families walked through the gardens together. Couples admired the views from the terraces. Artists sketched the architecture. Photographers captured the palace in morning light, afternoon shadow, and evening gold. The palace became a living canvas for the world to enjoy. The Palace of Caserta's transformation into a global cultural destination showed that beauty and history are powerful forces. They connect people. They inspire curiosity, they encourage respect for the past, and they remind us that no matter how much the world changes, certain creations deserve to remain standing. not only because of the people who built them, but because of what they represent. Today, Caserta stands proudly as a monument reborn. It is no longer a forgotten giant hidden behind locked doors. It is a thriving center of art, learning, and discovery. And each year, more people leave the palace carrying new memories and a deeper appreciation for the extraordinary effort that saved it. As restoration continued into the 2020s, the Palace of Caserta reached a moment no one from the 19th or 20th century would have believed possible. A building once on the edge of ruin had transformed into a proud symbol of cultural rebirth. Visitors arriving at the palace in modern times no longer saw a fading monument. They saw a place bursting with energy, a place where history lived, breathed, and welcomed every traveler with a story worth remembering. Walking through the grand entrance today, tourists immediately feel the weight of centuries beneath their feet. The polished stone floors echo the footsteps of kings, queens, soldiers, architects, scholars, and artists who all passed through before them. Sunlight pours down the magnificent staircase, highlighting the careful restoration work that returned its marble glow. When visitors look up, they see frescoes so bright and detailed that it is hard to believe they were once nearly lost under layers of dust and neglect. Tour guides now explain each space with pride, describing how Luigi Vanvitelli imagined every corridor, every window, and every fountain as part of a grand master plan. They share stories of how King Charles III wanted a palace that rivaled the greatest in Europe, a place that would announce the strength of Naples to the entire world. Visitors learn about old traditions and celebrations, hearing how the palace once hosted balls, ceremonies, and royal gatherings filled with music and candlelight. But the most emotional parts of the palace's story come from the years of struggle. People are often surprised to learn that World War II brought bomb damage, looting, and chaos that nearly destroyed the palace forever. They react with disbelief when they hear that some rooms sat abandoned for decades, locked away like forgotten chapters in history. Imagining an empty drift of dust in a room that once held a king's throne feels almost unreal. Yet it happened, proof that even the grandest places can fall silent. Today, those same rooms stand restored, shining in ways their creators once hoped for. The throne room glows once again, with its soaring ceiling fresco proudly showing the moment the palace's first stone was laid. The Hall of Mars, the Hall of Astria, and the great ceremonial chambers all look like they have awakened from a long sleep. Visitors can feel the careful work that went into every detail, work done by modern hands honoring the dreams of the past. Outside, the gardens stretch wide and green, shaped by centuries of love and reconstruction. The English garden feels like a world of its own, with winding paths, quiet ponds, and rare plants collected from faraway countries. The long avenue of fountains, once dry and cracked, now slowly returns to life as restoration of the Carolino Aqueduct continues. Engineers and historians work side by side, determined to restore the palace's original water system so the cascading fountains can flow once more in full glory. When visitors walk down the long garden axis toward the distant waterfall, they experience something powerful, a feeling that combines nature, history, architecture, and imagination into one breathtaking moment. It is the same feeling people had in the 1700s when the palace first opened. Even after centuries of change, that sense of wonder remains. The palace's revival has also helped nearby communities. Tourism has brought new jobs, restored businesses, and created a cultural identity that locals proudly share with visitors. Caserta is no longer just a town near Naples. It is a global destination, a place that travelers write about, photograph, and remember long after they return home. The palace has also become a reminder of resilience. Many people find meaning in its story because it mirrors something universal. The idea that even when something becomes damaged, forgotten, or overlooked, it can still be restored. It can still rise again. The palace shows that history doesn't have to fade. It can be rescued, celebrated, and shared with new generations. As the world changes, the Palace of Caserta continues to evolve. Modern concerts fill its courtyards with music. Art exhibitions allow visitors to see new creativity alongside centuries-old masterpieces. Students sit on the palace steps taking notes, sketching, and dreaming. Families take photos by the fountains. Travelers stand in awe beneath the glass chandeliers. Filmmakers continue to use the palace as a backdrop for new stories, adding fresh layers to its legacy. And through all of this, one truth becomes clear. The Palace of Caserta is more than a building. It is a bridge connecting the dreams of the past with the hopes of the future. It is a reminder that beauty matters, history matters, and preserving our shared culture is worth the effort. Today, when the sun sets over the palace's enormous facade, its warm light touches the rooftops, reflects on the windows, and highlights the incredible journey the building has taken. From royal pride to abandonment, from devastation to rebirth, Caserta's story proves that even the most damaged treasures can be saved when people choose to believe in their value. The Palace of Caserta now stands fully alive, a shining example of human creativity, determination, and passion. It tells the world that history does not belong to the past alone. It belongs to everyone who continues to care for it. And so, the palace endures. It stands proudly in southern Italy, inviting people from all corners of the world to walk its halls, explore its gardens, and experience its story. A place once nearly lost has become a masterpiece reborn, a dream rebuilt, restored, and ready for generations to come. As modern visitors leave the palace, many glance back one last time. They look at the arches, the windows, the towers, and the endless gardens, realizing they have witnessed something rare. A building that survived the rise and fall of empires, the violence of war, the emptiness of neglect, and the hope of restoration. And in that moment, they understand the true message of the Palace of Caserta. Great dreams never truly die. They simply wait to be rediscovered.